Welcome to Podlomania Podcast, your photography and video podcast, where we introduce you to some of the most amazing creatives from around the world. I'm your host, Wayne Johns, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend, buddy, and co-host, Jake Hicks. Hey, man.
How you doing?
Hey, well, here we are, the first one of the big 2020.
New decade, yeah. Well rested, fully recharged after way too much food and drink over Christmas and New Year's. But yeah, I'm here. I'm ready.
I didn't want to say, mate. I mean, obviously I can see you, which people don't know, but
wow! Don't even.
That's you've eaten well over Christmas, man, haven't you?
Unbelievable.
No, man, we've had a good break over Christmas and New Year, haven't we? Because you were away, I was away, and then Christmas period, New Year period, we took that break in between, which is why we didn't release one on the 1st of January. Not that I can see many people wanting to listen to our voices on New Year's Day, to be fair.
No, that's true, man.
Yeah. So here we are, jumping back into this one. That's a good start, man. So
back with a bang, though.
Back with a bang, and a year full of some awesome stuff and some travels as well, with some podcasting and travels coming up in the later part of the year, which would be great. And here we are to start. It's funny, isn't it? We're rounding off the beginning of 2020 with episode 20. Couldn't have planned that if we tried, could we?
We don't let him out very often. So.
Okay, well, here we go. We in this episode, we talk to a very talented photographer who loves to inject a bit of soul into his work. But in a previous life, he was a man who toured the world rocking a guitar and not a camera. It's only the damn nice chap as well. It's only the talented Clay Cook. Clay, welcome to the show, man.
Howdy,
Mike
fellas.
by himself, by the way. How you doing, Clay? How you doing?
Good, my brother. How you guys?
We're good, man. Clay, I got one question before we get into the questions. Have you had any good old fashions lately, mate?
Yes, last night.
Wow. Okay. Considering it's 9 o'clock in the morning for you now, it's pretty impressive.
I mean, I tell you what, I've had a lot of good old fashions. Actually, I think I told you guys one of the best old fashions I've ever had was in London.
In London?
Yeah, I was in London, but not to toot my own horn, but I can make a pretty mean one too. So that's what kind of we participated in last night.
Clay.
Yeah.
We're soon to find that out, Jake, this year, I believe. Aren't we? A little road trip over that, yeah. And Clay, for those that don't know, just tell our listeners, what is an old fashioned?
Well,
apart from me and Jake,
is obviously the main ingredient is a good old Kentucky bourbon and or whiskey. You can make it with whiskey too, but it's basically bourbon, simple syrup, and a combination of bitters. It's a really simple drink, and it originated in Louisville, Kentucky, at a place called the Pendennis Club, and so that's why it's special place in my heart with me. So,
because that's where you're based, right? That's where you work out of.
That's correct. Yep, I am based in Louisville, Kentucky, in the U.S.
Louisville. I love it when you say that. I hear you explain that to people before. People go, it's Louisville. And he goes, no, man, it's Louisville. It's like,
well, it's a thing. So the locals pronounce it Louisville. So L-U-L, Louisville.
Okay.
So if you call it Louisville, you're an immediate tourist and you're from out of town. So if you want to blend in, you just say Louisville. It's like we have a place called Versailles, but people pronounce it Versailles. So it's just putting that southern swing on everything, pretty much. So
okay,
yeah. Anyway,
I mean, I got it.
You guys say Birmingham different to us as well.
Yeah,
Birmingham.
No, because you got a Birmingham over there, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, Alabama, but that's real south. That's like getting into the deep south is Alabama for sure. But Kentucky's kind of weird.
That word earlier on, and I was like, we do not say it like that.
Yeah, yeah. My whole family lives in Birmingham, but Birmingham. Kentucky's weird because we're just north to where people in the north consider us south, and people in Alabama consider us way north. So we're like really stuck in the middle. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, like if people hear my accent, like some say I have a Southern accent, some say I have a Northern accent, some say I don't have a Midwest, like no accent at all. So it's kind of weird. But anyway,
There you go.
Right.
I like the Southern accent. I think it's fun.
Yeah. No, it's,
Yeah.
That's the way I put on my charm a little bit, my Kentucky boy charm. So anyway,
And for those of you that you can only hear him, but we can see him. I mean, he's got a massive smile on his face at the moment, folks.
Oh yeah,
he's in a good mood. And just to let people know, it's after 2 p.m. here, and it's just after 9 a.m. for you, isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Clay. So for our audience, which is very vast. I mean, Jake, there's a thing. Just to let them know on that question, we're going out in nearly 30 countries now, the podcast. So
real smooth, man, real smooth.
We've got a massive listener base. I'll cut that in there, mate. Don't worry. So for our audience, how would you describe yourself and what you do?
That's changed quite a bit over the years. When I first got into it, transitioning from being in the music business and then into graphic design and then into photography, I was shooting kind of a lot in a technical way. Like I was shooting a lot of fashion and shooting a lot of like fantasy work and a lot of concept work and stuff. And then that sort of transitions in 2015 when I was really my whole sort of mindset and approach to photography changed and started really diving into more humanitarian work and storytelling and stuff like that. So what I do now is basically portrait advertising work. And the foundation of all of that is storytelling for me. So whether that's a humanitarian project overseas in some developing country, or that's an advertising project here for tourism boards or whatever else, for me, like the storytelling aspect of photography is so important for me now. That's like everything. So that's what I focus on when I shoot photography. But as far as me personally, like I love living in Louisville. It's great. It's awesome. I got a great friend network here. I travel a lot. I like to work hard and play hard, and that's really important. That's how I was kind of raised here. So, that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess.
And you mentioned about music, like you used to have, and in fact, your website even says you're in a band in the Clear, and it said you had a long and arduous run in the music business. Like that sounds. I got to know what's going on, what that means.
I got a ton of stories, man, from the road. When it says arduous, that's like, it was tough. We didn't make any money personally. As a matter of fact, I make.
So this is what, when you were 15, 16, how old were you when you were doing this?
I started at the age of 16 till the age of 26. So I was in it for 10 years, pretty much touring. Yeah. We toured for most of that. So we would do like 2 months on tour, and then I'd be home for a month, and then we'd go back out on tour. And this is like the most can I cuss on here? The shittiest van.
Man, of course you can.
The shittiest van of all time. Like I'm talking like a 1980 Ford, like that barely ran. The muffler was hanging off it. It broke down like in every state, like we would just break down all the time. And like we would be sitting out on the side of the road.
How many of you is this in this?
There was 5 of us in the van.
In this kidnapper's van. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was like maroon with like, it was maroon with black stripes, and it was awful.
And a whole load of rust.
It was bad, man. But anyway, so yeah,
10 years though, Jesus.
Yeah, we lived that life, and sleeping in the van, sleeping on people's bathrooms, floors. We were pretty much like living homeless, but we played a show every single night. There might have been 2 people in the crowd, and then the next night there might have been probably the most, like 1,000 people, like at some club shows, and then we'd play festivals, and that might have been 20,000 people. So, and then the next night it'd be like back in the bars playing like to our friends, and like that's it. So it was this crazy sort of lifestyle, and just drinking it was just the total like rock star kind of life, except there was not really that many women, and we were just broke as hell. So,
So, I mean, but from the outside, it looked like you were a successful band, touring for 10 years. I mean, that's fair play.
Yeah, we did pretty good.
I actually checked out some of the music. It's actually pretty damn good. I actually listened to it last night.
Oh,
It's pretty
man.
damn good, man. Yeah.
Hey, man, I've seen some of the videos.
Yeah. We did a 10-year reunion show this past October.
I was going to say that was recent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In October.
I'm glad it's over, trust me, because that night, we went real hard in the paint, and I'm like, I'm too old for this shit now.
Really?
I can't keep up with this lifestyle. But it was cool, man. We hadn't been in the room together for a very long time, so we had to settle some demons there between us a little bit, and talked it out. We talked it out, and we got in a room for 15 nights and practiced, and then played in front of this big crowd at this local club around here. And it was a great time. And, chapter closed, because we never had a last show. We just sort of
broke up.
stopped playing. There was some
really?
There was some really, things going on internally with the bands when we stopped. And
tense moments.
Man, you've got 5 people living out of a van for 10 years. Yeah, I mean,
did anybody have the van to bring along for that reunion? Did that haunt you?
Oh wow, yeah.
Imagine that turning up. You just be like,
you know what? I don't know what happened to that van. I don't know what happened to half the stuff. We had a trailer and this PA system. We had all this stuff. I don't know what happened to it. Somebody probably took it and sold it or something,
it's dying somewhere in a field quietly. Just let it go. Yeah. So how did you transition from 10 years of debauchery with 5 men in a van to photography?
That's so different, isn't it?
Well, I was doing the only way I was able to make money was either I would come home and work at a whatever job and then quit, or work for my dad or something like that in between, or just try to make ends meet just to pay my cell phone bill, pretty much, because I was still living with my parents till I was 26. So living in my parents' basement, all the guys did, so because we were traveling so much, we'd be out of town. But I started doing band flyers and MySpace pages and
MySpace,
all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God.
For $100 here, a couple $100 here. And that it grew so much so quickly that I was working for record labels, which their budgets were a little bit bigger for album artwork and for bands that were signed on their record labels. And so,
they had $200.
Yeah. Exactly.
Double a quid.
Yeah. And so it started to be a thing for me. It started out as this totally harmless, thing I was doing to just do my own band. But people were oh, you're pretty good at that. We'll hire you and pay you nothing to do ours. You want to work for free? Cool.
I have no idea how the music industry operates, how it makes any money. It just all seems like everybody just passing around favors the entire time.
Pretty much. Yep. That's pretty much how it works. There's not much money in it, unless you work at a certain echelon of talent and record labels, once it reaches past a certain point, then it's okay, here's money, because I've shot some bands and stuff like that on a legit level. And budgets are there once you reach that specific level where there's money and funding and investment behind it. But most of the music business is just dirt poor broke, they have no money to spend. So, but I was doing graphic design and worked with a bunch of labels and was supporting myself. And once the band started slow burning sort of out, I was all right, I'm going to take this on seriously. I really need to start thinking about this as a career and working in the advertising world and whatnot. And I was getting all these requests to shoot this, to have this insane original photography implemented in the album artwork and stuff. And so that's when I sort of started dabbling into photography with like a Canon Rebel T2i or something.
Nice.
God.
But that wasn't my first camera. That was my buddy's camera I was just borrowing at the time. But my first shoot was I had a request from a band on Metal Blade Records, a band called Lazarus AD, and they wanted a family set in the 1960s on a beach covered in oil because it was right around this big BP oil spill.
Oh, spill. Yeah.
And so they wanted to make a statement with their album artwork. And so what we did was we set up a big background in my backyard, and I brought on my friend's family and my bass player's kids and like this stuff and covered them in Hershey's chocolate.
Well done.
Right. Well.
Nice.
And I photographed them and then like photoshopped them into like this beach in the 60s. And so that was like my first official shoot. So that's kind of how it started.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow. Just what was that band called? Just in case we can find that artwork anywhere. Is it Lazarus AD?
All right. So yeah, Lazarus AD. So the album cover is just a black ocean, but when you flip on the inside, that's when you get into the. I know. I could find
got
it.
Saved, Clay. You got saved.
I can hear people's fingers already hitting the keypads.
Well,
you know what I mean? Searching
What happened was that was going to be the album cover, but they were such like a new kind of band on the record label that the record label didn't want to put out something controversial.
A bit too political.
Gotcha.
A bit too political. So they decided like, okay, we'll make a deal. You can put it on the inside because it was a super last minute thing. I remember like it was last minute. So we had to come up with something. So it was just like a black ocean, you know, anyway, which makes sense, I guess, you know.
It does. Yeah.
And then from there, you just liked the photography side of it so much, you just sort of carried on from there?
Pretty much, yeah. So I started shooting. Yeah, I just brought it up right here. You can see it, Lazarus AD, and there's an album, Black Rivers Flow was the cover. Anyway, I just started doing that so much and shooting that it just kind of took over for me, and it kind of brought me back. I mean, so to rewind, when I was a child, I wanted to be Steven Spielberg. Like he was like my hero, right? I have his like autograph and like everything. It's just this thing. So I would shoot like little movies and all this stuff with this video camera that I had growing up. And so it kind of came back full circle for me when music like pivoted my entire life, but I was always really into broadcast journalism and video and all that stuff and making movies. And so when I came back to photography, it was like, I think I'm okay. I think I'm pretty good at this, you know, like I just have this like primal sort of instinct with photography, which I didn't have with music or I didn't have with graphic design, you know? So when I started shooting, it just sort of flowed out. Like it was just like, I was just shooting everything. I was like, you know, shooting my friends at parties. I was shooting bands, a ton of bands. I was shooting, you know, we would sneak into abandoned buildings and I would shoot animals. Like I was just shooting everything, you know, I always had my camera. And so this is very like explosion of like creativity for me.
And this is all back in the day with film, or are you shooting digital at this point?
No, it was digital. Yeah.
Digital.
No, I got into film later.
Okay.
And that changed for me quite a bit because it changed the way, like how I shoot, like
definitely,
you know, the approach and you know, slowing down and thinking about shots and like, yeah,
it's, you got to like we said before, Jay. I mean, when you get to film, you've got to learn your craft a little bit more, haven't you? Because you know you don't see those shots until it comes back from the lab, really, from process.
Agreed, and it's interesting to hear Clay say that he went back to it, you know, to do film and that sort of stuff. And I think some of us that shot with film originally do take it for granted a little bit. And I would just on that real quick, I would highly recommend anybody who's never shot film to go back and just try. Because it does. You cannot get away from the fact that you just instinctively want to think differently about each shot. You cannot get away from that. And it's
absolutely,
you think, oh, I've shot, years on digital. I'm going to shoot exactly the same way. It's not going to affect me. It's just film, but like, it's completely different. I highly recommend it. Yeah. So you mentioned about shooting, photographing, people. Obviously, like you're starting to hone in on that. You're shooting everything at that point. But you're shooting bands, and then your portraits of your friends and that sort of stuff. And obviously, your work today is all like every single one of your shots has a person in it. Like you are photographing people. That's your thing. But what is your goal when Clay Cook is photographing an actual portrait? That what are you trying to do when somebody's asked you for a portrait? What is it that you're trying to get out of it?
Well, when I first started, it was kind of this selfish approach. Like I was doing it for me. I was just shooting it when I would like have parties, and I would bring my friends over, and I would just shoot their photos just for like practice and like for lighting and like all this stuff. And of course they got like a photo out of it, but it was never that much of a flattering photo because they were like, we were drinking and they were like smoking cigarettes and stuff, like it was just whatever. But that's how it started for me. And then I flipped sort of at some point, and I knew that like everybody's got a story, and it's important for me to try to tell people's stories through a photograph and bringing out the most like natural sort of expression with people. Like when I shot in fashion, fashion's a lot of concept, it's a lot of fantasy. There's a lot of energy to it. So I kind of wanted to take, what I had learned in fashion and working with models to real people and trying to bring out that sense of emotion with people through photography. And the way I approach it now is just trying to build a bridge as quickly as possible. Do a lot of research on the back end on who these people are, what's their story, how can I relate to them, maybe we know mutual people, like all this stuff. Maybe we've traveled to same countries, like all that stuff is really important for me to build a bridge and become a friend to these people. And sometimes a matter of minutes, seconds, even. So that's kind of how I start. And the goal for me, depending on, of course, the end medium or what it's going to, or, how it's going to be put out there, of course. But the end goal is just to get the most like natural, comfortable, relatable feeling that's organic, real, raw. I like all those buzzwords, and it's in a portrait that like relates to people, where they look at it and they're like, oh, I'll never be that person, or I'll never do that. Like something like when they see it, like they're like, wow, that's engages me. I can relate to that, or something of that nature.
And do you think that you impart a certain style on your images? Is there a Clay Cook style when it comes to these portraits?
Or was there even?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. I mean, I like punchiness. It's hard for me to describe my work, but I like there to be, I like spicy food. So when I think of my work, I like it to be kind of spicy, punchier on the color and like all this stuff. Okay. Especially like, when I approach something, like I like the number one thing is I like the lighting to be natural to like everyday life, like how lighting is, in the real world. So that's kind of my approach when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I just like something that feels relatable and real when I do portrait work, whether that's the studio or environmental. But more of my work is leaning to be environmental and on location, like all that stuff more and more.
So would you say that you're still a fashion portrait and advertising photographer, or have you sort of transitioned from those genres now and, like you say, more into what you're doing currently? I mean, do you still shoot fashion?
Yeah, I rarely. Yeah, rarely. It's something that I'm not really hired to do as much, so I'm leaning towards the work that I want to shoot and I'm hired to do. So, actually this year I'm beginning to phase out a lot of the fashion work that I'm doing, and starting to implement more of the portraits and projects. So more of a storytelling aspect, which a lot of photographers, even the big guys are leaning towards, because storytelling is a really important thing for the world. So that's kind of where I'm leaning to, is like more in the advertising, tourism, healthcare, a lot of that stuff. Not lifestyle, but still remaining like it's got my style where it's like portrait heavy.
Get you.
Fashion is just something that's going to be slowly phased out. But
it's a fickle world, man.
people have hired me because they like my fashion work. So we're going to have that. We're going to have that work in there. It's just not going to be as prevalent, like in your face, I guess.
I spoke about style briefly a moment ago, and it's something that I find pretty fascinating with all artists, whether it be music or photography as well. And you are right; it is difficult to describe your own style. I mean, like me looking from the outside as a viewer, right? There's definitely a clear style in there. But what do you think that it is that you're offering? I mean, you have all these like huge clients that you work for, really high profile clients. Like, what is it that Clay Cook is offering? You think that your competitors aren't? Like, what are people coming to you for? Is it that certain Clay Cook look?
That's a good question. I think in a lot of cases, it's hiring me because it looks like I've got my shit together, kind of, And it's funny
we need
because
to edit out the first half of this podcast. Like, do we need to censor the first half?
I think, I think in a lot of cases, because I've talked to a lot of creative directors and photo editors and stuff like that, and like they want to be able to trust somebody very quickly. So having trust marks, working with big clients, like all those things, and then obviously having the great work goes a long way. I mean, people will hire you for your talent, but I think a big chunk of that is the reason why they're hiring you is because you can bring a crew, you know what you're doing, you have experience, you're bringing all these other attributes to the table to where they know that you'll deliver a great end product and they don't have to micromanage you or worry about you and all that stuff. So I think that's a big part of it. Obviously the work, is really important. But I'm hired for stuff like that, other guys or girls could do really freaking well, like, lifestyle stuff or whatnot. And that's just not what I do, but I'm hired to do it. And in some cases, and I always ask, like, why did you hire? And they're like, well, we know that you can execute. We know that you can get this done, and we don't have to worry about you. So I think it's a bit, especially in the advertising world. I think that's just in the advertising world. That's what a lot of people do is like they want to hire somebody they can just trust very quickly.
Yeah. And you used to shoot a lot of advertising campaigns as well, didn't you? Before, but. But you also, I mean, when we talk about your portraits, you're not just, unless you're on your travels and stuff, you're not just shooting sort of, what perhaps our listeners would know as a general portrait, are you? A family portrait. Your portraits are more sort of celebrity based. Would that be the right way to put it? I mean, obviously, I'm going to pull up a name now that obviously we know very well, and obviously it was a shoot you did last year, and that was of Jennifer Lawrence. Obviously, for those listeners that know, she was an actress in the Hunger Games, one of many films. But there's a background to that story as well, isn't there? Because didn't you two sort of grow up in the same town when you were younger?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's a little So my sister dated her brother for like 6 years, and we were next door neighbors. So I pretty much grew up with Jennifer next door, and our families were really close. And so when I did photograph her, we hugged each other, and she remembered me, like the whole thing. Like it was totally cool. But we live in a small town in Louisville, so everybody's got their like first degree to Jennifer Lawrence kind of thing. But
first degree.
I mean, you could talk to anybody, and they're like, "Yeah, my sister's brother."
One of those.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I don't even mention it. I'm just like, whatever, because everybody wants to know her. Like, yeah, I saw her running through my neighborhood the other day, and I talked to her. It's like.
Wow.
Okay.
It didn't even speak to her. I just saw her running by.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, it's nice because, I mean, for people, go and have a look at Clay's website if you're not already on it. But you know, the images are beautiful. Such beautiful soft light as well, Clay. They were awesomely
Thanks.
done.
Yeah, and you know, like you mentioned, like a lot of people assume a portrait is something like retail, family portrait, headshot, like that kind of stuff. That's just not what I do. Most of my portrait work is either for some sort of advertising, some sort of campaign, which is maybe a billboard campaign, maybe like a magazine run, maybe broadcast, like all this different stuff, or it's social media. That's a huge thing that they use this to promote the product, and or these portraits are used to for publicity purposes, so like politicians, or it's for editorial for magazines or stuff like that. So it's all definitely in the commercial side of things, or the entertainment industry. So like key art, so movie posters, things like that. I'll do that every now and then, like a few times a year, where I'll shoot stuff that is for various TV shows or films or whatnot that gets implemented into key art. So
yeah, that's mad, because it's funny, because if you were to put that out, that you're a portrait photographer, people often think straight away, like we've just said, of the you shoot family portraits and stuff, but they don't realize there's a commercial side of portrait work in advertising, which is still in the advertising world of photography. So it is still the very high end commercial work. And I look at some of your work. What's the I can't remember her name. What's the older lady you did on the inflatable pineapple? Baddie
Winkle.
Baddie Winkle. That's it. I mean, you have those on your website in your portrait category, and when you look at the other images that accompany that's almost like an advertising campaign, isn't it, in itself? But
well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That was for a particular app called Stash, and they're like an investment app. So it's like, it makes investing and easy pretty much for people. And there's a few of them out there, but yeah, we shot those portraits, and like the slogan was like, live your best life. So here's this Instagram celebrity, Baddie Winkle.
Gotcha.
And she's like celebrating, and they went all these billboards in New York. So, and that they're trying to basically promote retirement to young people, and like, hey, making retirement easy. So that was the whole campaign behind it. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I mean, if
they're awesome
brief,
shots.
that was excellent. Yeah, excellent shots of that. Yeah, I love it.
It was fun. She's a blast. She's from Waco, Kentucky, so she's got a farm out in Kentucky, and I think that's why they selected me to shoot it, because they're based in New York. So
okay,
she's got a farm in Kentucky, but we shot it in Nashville. So I think they just wanted a Kentucky photographer to work with her, because they wanted to get more out of her. So I put on that Kentucky boy charm, and
and it worked.
Little farm. Oh yeah,
it worked, man.
She was.
It looks like you had a blast doing that, but
oh yeah, it was so much fun. She's great. She's 90 something years old and still
wow, really?
She was.
Wow.
Oh yeah, she was like in the back having a margarita.
And looking at those images, you can
live
imagine
your best
that
life.
Well,
yeah.
Can you?
Oh, she was so fun. And, she certainly is living her best life. She had to go to a Netflix, like, red carpet thing, like, right after. Like,
really?
She was flying to L.A., like, right after. I was like, you're, like, 95, and you're, like,
what a goddamn hero. Jesus.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
And she's got to walk, like, a Netflix red carpet for, it was that Glow series.
Okay, yeah.
The wrestling Glow series.
Get you.
Yeah. She was going to a premiere right after the shoot. I was like, wow.
Wow, that's awesome. They're great shots. I urge people to go and look at those. They're so colourful, and so
thank you very
loud,
much.
aren't they? They're so loud.
Yep, that's what we wanted.
So what drives you as a photographer, Clay? What sort of makes you get up every day and love what you love and do what you do in the way that you do it?
Yeah, that's changed for me quite a bit, but now it's a lot of the humanitarian projects I'm involved in. I love doing the advertising work and the portrait work. It's a ton of fun, but really, what truly fuels the fire and keeps me from avoiding mental burnout is a lot of the humanitarian global focus projects that I do that genuinely make an impact in the world. And that's really sort of changed my worldview and how I see people in photography and like a lot of stuff. So that is what keeps the fire burning for sure, is those types of projects.
That's cool. And do you find yourself almost being two different people when you sort of look at the way you approach your commercial work and your humanitarian work?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a way different thing. It's like when I do my humanitarian work, it's always a small crew, maybe one assistant, who kind of operates as like, my right-hand man. He might second shoot, he might be holding lights, he might be gaffing, gripping, like doing all that stuff. But it's kind of me and a camera, it's just this very organic approach to photography, which I never dreamed I would do. Like I never thought ever I would shoot photography like that photojournalistic sort of way of shooting. And that's why I love it, is just because it's so primal for me.
Okay, it's nice.
While the advertising stuff is the opposite. I mean, we're talking crews of like 30 people, and it's all this lights and studios, and like it gets really crazy, which that has, that I love it and I love doing that. But yeah, the humanitarian stuff is it's just a different thing.
It's a different beast. The commercial world's a different beast, isn't it? Completely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even though in the end, like it's still commercial work, like I'm being paid to be there.
Yeah.
There is, they're using the images for the most part. These nonprofits or NGOs are using the images to fundraise and gain awareness and brand awareness and onboard donors and stuff like that. But I know that it's like through that type of work, I'm changing, I'm making an impact, And
you're helping. Well, hopefully, the work and everything that it goes towards is also help make a difference to other people's lives.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's so rewarding for me. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding than that,
Yeah, that's got to touch the heart and soul quite a bit, man. Because I mean, they're a juxtaposition apart, aren't they? Those two. There's got to be an emotional contact there somewhere for you. When you compare commercial work to humanitarian work.
Yeah, it's they're just two. I approach them way different. It's two different types of photography. It's two different animals. So there's two different switches in my head that kind of go off, and I love doing that type of photojournalistic work again, because it's just kind of me and a camera, and I'm in some exotic country, and I'm just trying to build stories and document what I see.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned at the start of this interview that, when you were younger, you loved that sort of reportage, like documentary style filmmaking as well. Like so getting back into it now.
It's kind of full circle. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I didn't do that with intent or on purpose whatsoever.
How did you bridge the gap, from, shooting, a 30 crew in a big studio? Like how did somebody just come up to you and go, hey, do you want to come to Tanzania and photograph people? Like how did you bridge that gap?
Yeah, it was a guy named Corey Deeb. He's with a film company called Natus Films. It's Sudan backwards. And so he did a documentary film in Sudan about clean water. And then he was working with a client called Waterboys, in which it's basically a American football star, a guy that started a big foundation in Tanzania, and was like, hey, they are looking for a photographer. And I was friends with him already. Like I just was buddies with him. And he's like, hey, we're looking to bring a photographer, and you got a little grit, and like, even though this isn't your type of work you do. I mean, he just gave me a chance,
Wow.
He's one of my best friends. I see him all the time, and I work with that crew a lot now, and almost every project they do. And and he gave me a shot and took me to Tanzania, and man, I did so much research. Like it was crazy how much like I deep dove into like traveling as a photographer and whatnot. And
so you'd not actually done anything on this scale in a foreign country, and and this is not traveling to London or Paris. This is traveling to somewhere that doesn't have running water and sanitation, really, to a certain extent.
No, it was the first time I'd ever traveled out of the country, actually.
Oh, really? Really? Out of the country? Wow.
Man,
Well,
you got to
there's a
leave that
culture
maroon
shock.
van, and that's it, man. It's a big wide world.
That's
We
a
traveled
hell of a culture shock.
as a band. We traveled all over the U.S. I mean, we traveled in all 50 states, pretty much. I think, all 50 states. But I'd never been out of the country, and so my first trip out of the country was to freaking Africa.
You know why you never went out of the country with the band, don't you? Because no fucker would let that van in their country. That's why.
Yeah, I'd probably be dead too. I wouldn't make it out. With those guys, we wouldn't make it back.
So that must have been certainly nerve-wracking for you, not only traveling abroad for the first time, but traveling to somewhere with less than stellar facilities for everything that you're going to need to do, and you're working on a major job for a brand new client. This is an opportunity for you. So obviously you said you did a lot of research. Like, what does this research involve? What are you doing?
A lot of blogs on just culture, making sure that I wasn't disrespectful in any way. That was like my number one thing. How to like basic knowledge of Swahili. I learned like proper etiquette. I learned how to pack gear. I learned how to be safe working through customs, and it was just all kind of. And you can prepare only so much, and then
Sure.
You just got to do it. And
you got to experience it, haven't you?
And build that experience. But
the whole 1,000 guidebooks is not worth a single journey, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I'm working on, and it's going to be launched. Just to give a little quick shout out on this blog I'm working on. I've been working on this blog for about a year now, and it's traveling in exotic places and countries. And it's like, dude, it's like 60,000 words. It's like a freaking book.
Shit.
And,
this is not your Clay Cook blog. This is a different one.
It is. No, it'll be on my blog.
It'll be on there.
Okay. I'm going to launch it probably in the next week or so.
Is there an audible version of that?
As long as you can narrate it, man. I need that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I need that British accent on that.
Wow, Jesus. So how long have you been working on that then?
A long time, yeah. And it's just basically like a lot of my experiences, like traveling and do's and don'ts and like etiquette and like working through customs. And it's mostly geared towards people that travel as a photographer or travel as a musician or travel with equipment.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that stuff. It's, contingency plans, insurance. It goes through like, all the
malaria, yellow fever, just just all the normal stuff,
medical,
all that stuff, like
bribery money to get your kit through customs.
Yep.
Yeah, we know that happens.
Like one little quick tip is I carry a laminated copy of my passport, where I'm staying, and $100 in my right shoe at all times.
Yeah,
I carry my blood type in my left shoe. So.
Wow.
It's like, things like little tips.
I hope I don't steal your shoes, mate.
I was about to say, man, I might cut that out of the podcast. We'll see Clay next week. He'll have no shoes on.
The shoeless.
Don't worry, people. He's going to confuse everyone. He's going to swap shoes.
You want to know?
Just a heads up.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that also. Yeah, that also ties back into what you were saying like earlier on about you're doing a portrait of a corporate director, or you're doing it of a celebrity. You're doing your research. And you said the same thing. You're going to Tanzania. You're going to photograph a different people. You're doing your research. You don't want to insult anybody. You don't do anything wrong. Again, it's that making sure that you're prepared and doing that research is still there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge for me, and so it's funny. The guys make fun of me that like. I was really prepared, for that trip. Even more so to the guy that had been in way more countries and like, and I was just like really particular and OCD with like everything when it came to travel. And I think they liked it. They appreciated that. I was just like a resource that they could rely on and
dependable again. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same
I'm going, I'm heading back in, about 2 weeks, and this will be my 7th time to Tanzania. So
7th time, wow.
Jeez, man.
With the same brand, same Water Boys. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I obviously love what you're doing, man. Yeah, and I saw some of those shots. Yeah, everybody, got to check it out because I think even you said yourself, Clay, that not everybody knows that side of your work. So it's definitely worth checking that out in Clay's portfolio.
And also, Clay, just to our listeners, what is the Water Boys? What is it? What is the project? What it's all about?
So, Water Boys basically partners sports athletes, so NFL guys, NBA. All sorts of different athletes, golf, and all these. They want to get more into more sports associations, and it gives them the opportunity to raise awareness using their platforms and raise money to build clean water wells in Africa, because the water crisis is a real thing there. I've seen it with my own eyes. These people are dying of waterborne illnesses, and there's just not water there. So they're building groundwater wells everywhere. And so we've built, Water Boys alone since 2015 has built almost 40 wells.
Wow.
And it's serving almost 400,000 people right now.
Okay.
And then we have a goal of serving over 1 million people in the next couple of years. So, these sports guys are using their brand, their platforms to raise awareness, and bring in donors and fundraising and all this stuff to help the people of East Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, in that whole area, because it's a big problem over there.
That's cool.
Where can people go and see this project?
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah, waterboys.org. Whatever you do, don't go to waterboys.com.
Okay. People can't see our faces here, but we're kind of guessing.
Now they will. I'm warning you now.
You know for a fact. People are going to type in both now.
Oh, God, that's brilliant. Okay.
Okay. So waterboys.org. Oh, God.
Yeah. Enter if you so dare. Because
I better not see you in there, Clay. I better not see you in there.
I've done it a couple of times. I've made that mistake, and I'm like, oh, shit.
People are looking at that right now as they're listening to our podcast, but not when you're driving down the motorway, please.
So
they're either going down the rabbit hole or they're clicking off that.
Oh man, Jesus. Okay.
So apart from the Water Boys, I mean, you've got a couple other things on your website, haven't you? You got things like Conquering Kilimanjaro and Nakisima, if I say that right. What are those projects? What can you tell us about those?
So Kilimanjaro, so 1 year it was with Water Boys, and so the kind of concept is like we climb Kilimanjaro as a challenge to ourselves to represent the miles and miles that women walk just to get clean water in Africa.
Wow.
And it's something also that they put on as an event just to raise further money. So in order for these people to climb, they have to raise a certain amount of money. Mm-hmm. So whether it's like $10,000 or something. So, so that was that project, in which it was just a bunch of athletes, and it was a bunch of military veterans that climbed Kilimanjaro as like a challenge, and then they raised a ton of money doing it. So,
nice.
And then let's see, Nakisma is, I think I'm saying that right. It's Swahili for with the well. And so I've always wanted to do a portrait project of female Maasai in Tanzania, because like I see them all the time. And I think it's going to turn into a bigger project for me. It's just something that like I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I finally had the opportunity. And so I photographed all these Maasai women underneath a water well. Mm-hmm. And I want to continue to do that every time I go to Tanzania, and just build this massive library of portraits, like close portraits of female Maasai, because it's just it's amazing the battles and the things that these women have overcome over there. So
I mean, I can see the images on my screen now, and the images they're so strong and contrasty, aren't they? There's so much depth and richness to them.
Yeah, and you know, I've had it in my head. I want to do. There's nothing like necessarily original about it. It's just like something that I wanted to do as a personal project. So that's like strictly personal stuff, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're doing when you're visiting these places, I mean, obviously you must see some really beautiful sights, but at the same token, you must see some really distressful sort of situations.
Mm.
So when you have to photograph those things or portraits in those kind of areas, what do you feel when you're shooting something like that? How does that make you feel inside whilst you're looking through your camera, even emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, I use the camera as a shield in a lot of cases. So like if I have a camera in front of my face, I feel like I'm protected in some way. So
Okay, it's interesting.
I don't try to mentally deep dive into what I'm seeing because I'm trying to tell the story. So in a lot of cases, yeah, I'll see something that's very distressing. But as soon as I put up the camera to my face, it's like that switch goes off to where like it feels like I'm protected a little bit, if that makes any sense, from what's going on. But I'm not blind to it. I'm obviously seeing it, you know. I'm capturing it. Now I see it in post a lot, you know, where I'm like actually reading into it quite a bit, and I'm like seeing it there, and I'm like, whoa, that was
and reflecting
crazy,
as well, I guess.
Yeah, crazy moment. But yeah, I mean, I was raised in a really great home with a really strong family, and you know, I've been inspired by a lot of friends and family in my life that have a really strong head on their shoulders, and I have a lot of friends that are military veterans and have been through some stuff and seen some stuff. And so I have mad respect for those people. And I've been inspired by those people. So yeah, when I see distressing things, you know, I try to do my best to capture it.
Yeah.
So that I can change it, you know, through photography. And so I have to separate myself a little bit from what's going on mentally.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it's got to be hard because, I mean, you know, if you're an end viewer or a viewer looking at your images, you know, people are looking at your story of, you know, what you've just shot and where you've just shot it and whatever the purpose is for. But looking at images like that doesn't actually make you feel like you did when you were there, because not only they're just looking at an image either on screen or on a page, but you're there. I mean, you can see, you can hear, you can feel, you can smell. You've got all the other senses affecting you while you're working in those shots. I mean, it must you know, some things you must walk away. And do any of them make you feel a little bit sad in the humanitarian kind
absolutely.
of work? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. But I try to keep that strong, you know, very strong head, you know, and keep hyper focused on the goal, and knowing that it's not going to help this situation if I go into some sort of depression or mental anguish or whatnot. I have a job. Exactly. I have a job to do. And I know that if I do that job really well, then I have the potential chance through this work to change it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the headspace I get into when I see distressing things, or I'm even in experiencing distressing moments and security risks and all these things. You know, it's some of the places I've go are dangerous, you know, and and we're doing dangerous things. But that's, to me, it fuels the fire, man. I like it. Okay. You know, I like that adrenaline. I like being in those situations and facing fear. I think that I always read, like, do something that scares you every day, you know? And so I kind of live by that mantra a little bit of doing things that I'm scared of. And it makes me a better person.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's got to be hard. I mean, I you know, like you say, trying to do something that scares you every day is kind of keeps you alive a little bit. I mean, I find that when I look in the mirror every morning, man, it's something scary for me. It's like, try and
me too, man.
Stay away from that one.
I'm like, damn, getting old. There's another line.
Another one.
There's Those bags are looking real heavy today.
So I can tell that you're pretty like you're heavily invested in these projects that you're doing. Like, what is the Clay Cook dream job then? Dream shoot? Is this it for you right now, or does that change every year, or like what is that?
I don't know. I mean, it used to be something different. It used to be like, oh, take a big crew over to New Zealand, photograph all these models and stuff like that. And now I'm like, yeah, that would be fun, but it's not the dream shoot. I think for me, working with partners that can truly make a difference in the way, like, not that I'm not doing that right now.
Working with partners,
big partners that are making big chunks out of this thing, whatever that might be, is whoever that is, I'm working on something right now that's looking like that. So, and it's really an honor to be a part of that kind of stuff. It's, as cliche as that sounds, it really is. Like, I think about it a lot. I'm like, man, I don't know where this life came from, but I'm really blessed to be in it, and helping people, and helping people through something I love and doing, I mean, it's not, it's easy for me. It's just like
food for the soul, man. Yeah.
Food for soul. Definitely, man.
Totally.
And a less deep and meaningful question in this series that doesn't sort of link to any of that in one way. When you're traveling on these shoots, obviously you're still taking strobe equipment with you and things, aren't you? Because you're using as much natural light as you can, but there are times where you're still using strobe and things to emphasize that natural light or recreate that natural light in your images. So I mean, do you travel light, or do you take a shitload of kit with you? And
Clay Cook travel light.
I'm asking that because I know the cameras that you shoot.
I've seen his bloody camera.
It's the size of a trailer.
Yeah, I've pushed the limit on what what you should take. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but
no one.
Yeah, people have got this really like romantic idea of just Clay gallivanting around the plains of the Sahara with like a nimble 50 mil, just capturing the thing as it unfolds in front of him. Yeah, no.
Come on, Clay, spill the beans.
That's not.
Spill the beans. I mean, I'm sure your carry-on luggage, especially if you take one of your cameras, must be over the weight limit, surely.
I'm really particular about that. Like, I come on, like, right on 50 pounds,
Really?
So what is that, 22 kilos or something? Like, right on the marker every time. Yeah, because I weigh all that stuff, and so I might take out, like, a battery just to, like, get on that marker.
Really?
Yeah, none of my bags are ever overweight, ever.
Yeah, he just has to carry about 20 frigging things with him. That's why they're never overweight. It's like he's got so.
Yeah.
So what do you traditionally? Is there any one camera system you go for in your travels, or do you look at the project and go, actually, man, I'm going to shoot that DSLR, or I'm going to shoot that medium format?
Yeah, it depends. Like this project we just did in Cambodia, we shot all Sony A7R3s.
Okay.
We had a Sony sponsorship with it. Cool. If my go-to is going to be always a Canon 5D Mark III or Mark IV, whatever that is.
You're a Canon guy. Yeah.
I've brought over, my Phase IQ, IQ3.
The beast.
It's a lot of camera. It's a lot of camera for that.
Yeah, it's a lot of weight, man. That's a lot of weight.
Don't recommend that. Won't probably do that again. Right, Wayne. It's just a lot of weight and it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because I did it. I was like, I just gotten it. I was like, I'm going to take this over to Africa and try to do this like photojournalistic work with it. Yeah. I'm like, nope.
No, and it's not just that it's a lot of weight, is it? I mean, the phase one systems, the IQ systems, I mean, they're big bloody units as well, aren't they? Sort of in terms of body size.
They're big. They're designed for shoots that are static or a little slower moving and just like in a studio in a controlled environment. But I was like, let me take this thing out in an uncontrolled environment and see how it does. And I mean, it was great. I mean, I got some really great shots out of it, but all the shots that I could get with it were a little bit more static than like in motion.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I mean, my Mark IIIs are my workhorses. Those things are just, they have been beat beat to shit.
You're still on the Mark IIIs? You've not transitioned over to Mark IVs or 1DX2s, or was it now 1DX3? Isn't it 1DX Mark IIIs now?
I have to get another camera this year because I've reached the maximum shutter count on both of my cameras. So
shit, really?
Like I get that error that doesn't exist. Like it just says error. Like there's no code or anything. And so I sent it back to Canon and they're like, yeah, you've reached your, like the shutter count, your shutter's busted, but we'll replace it, but it's going to go out again. And I'm like, oh, great. So
eBay, here we come.
I gotta upgrade again. So.
And will you upgrade this time? Will you go? What will you go for if you're going to replace that then?
Well, I was looking at that new what is it? The 1D? What did you mention?
The 1DX Mark III. I think it's just come out, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's slightly bigger. It's the what they call their pro body, isn't it? It's the vertical grip's all built in, so slightly bigger body. Yeah. But
I was looking at that because like I'm doing so much of this work now that like having a camera like that would be really awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about doing that, like having at least like one camera like that.
Yeah.
But if I was to upgrade, it would just be a Mark IV, Canon 5D Mark IV.
So this is a strange question. I mean, you not making a transition to mirrorless yet then? I'm just thinking if you're traveling and body size and everything else like that, is it interest you yet? Because I know you mentioned, you had a sponsorship with Sony and things, but you're still a, heart-to-heart Canon shooter.
Yeah. So those that know me well know that I have a deep, passionate hatred for mirrorless cameras.
Well, there goes our viewer count. Thanks very much, Blake.
There we go. Oh, they're all switching off. I can see the numbers plummeting now.
That's what we want now. There's nobody left.
Yeah. I'm going to retitle this episode.
Guys.
DSLR is not dead.
Sorry, guys.
I'm half in your camp there, Clay. But go on, carry on.
Okay.
Explain that.
All right.
Bombshell.
Yeah. I just, I have to use them on occasion because of the silent shutter and like the size and the footprint that they offer. But I have so many experiences where I'll take those out in the field and they're just not built for that type of work. I don't think the technology is there because it's all digital. It's slow. Like it's just a slow moving process. Like focus is slow. It's all digital, so it has that sort of latency with everything.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
It's not as tactile. Yeah, you want to change something, you got to go 8 menus deep. I get that.
Yeah, and you just can't. You don't have that when you're shooting stuff that's going to happen in seconds. You just don't have that time, that luxury of time to miss shots, and that's exactly what happens with mirrorless. And then on top of that, things just stop working. I mean, I've had a mirrorless just shut off, like it just shuts off and doesn't work. And you have to like reset the whole thing and the whole system. And that's happened to me. I've gotten them wet and they just break down, like they just stop working.
Hold on a minute. I'm gonna interject there. I got them a little bit wet. I've seen you shooting your Canon where it got a so-called little bit wet, and that was called almost a wave just covering you completely. That's not a few raindrops.
Like next
in
to
the sand.
Big waves in Puerto Rico with that bloody 30 gram pentax. I couldn't look. I had to walk away. I felt physically sick just being near you.
Let's just define that, like a little bit wet in Clay's world is a whole lot different than in most people's worlds.
Yeah, submerged.
I mean, it came out with sand all over it. It was covered in bloody water. I saw the waves lapping over you while you were sat in the sand. It's like,
man, that's why I love those things. I can abuse them a little bit. They're like built for, they're like tanks. The Mark IIIs and
true, man. Yeah, I come from Canon originally, so I understand.
I just feel like I have to baby the mirrorlesses a little bit. Hey, I mean, like they are really cool cameras. They're really awesome, and they're just not really built for the kind of approach that I have.
Use with caution, people. Use with caution. So that's an interesting point of view, though. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but I use them.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Yeah, and just obviously you're not talking about Sony's because because of your relationship with them, but like there's plenty of mirrorless cameras out there.
To the wall. It's fun.
Just to change tack a little bit. you mentioned you're doing a lot of writing. You got your 60,000 word manifesto coming out soon. I also was on your blog recently, or the research team, sorry, was on your blog late last night, and just checking out your December 31st post, and it was a very brutally honest reflection.
Yeah.
And you say in there that you do this every year, and I would urge everybody to do the same thing. I do something similar. I'm not quite as open and as honest as you are, so I respect you immensely for doing that. But you mentioned that it was a pretty rough year personally. You had a phenomenal year business wise. You had a rough year personally for one reason or another. Like how do you work that work life balance? Like what do you do outside of photography, or don't you? Is it just 100% work? How are you getting that balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like if you were to look at a chart, like my business is like going up, but my personal life is just like a deep dive south. That was my year. No, it's
so right.
I think that's just an entrepreneurial lifestyle. I think that like there's sacrifices you have to make to do what you love in a lot of cases, but I have a really good network of friends that are incredibly inspiring to me. Friends that I would consider wildly more successful than me. Friends and colleagues that are amazing at their whatever they decide to do. They own multiple businesses. They all have employees. They're CEOs of these companies that they founded, and they're like my age. It's just a really amazing network. And so, hanging out with those people and being around, surrounding yourself with people that are more inspiring to you has been a great way for me to offload some of that some of the personal struggles that I go with, because they've experienced the same thing. And so using them as like almost my personal therapist has like helped out quite a bit. And just having a really great positive friend network, keeping that circle as small as possible, because it used to not be like that for me. Like I used to have like a gazillion friends, and they were all kind of acquaintances, and it was a lot of people, but I never really had a really small trusted network of colleagues and friends. And so having that has been a great balance to me. And I travel a lot. I'm always on the go. I'm always like crazy around, just running around kind of everywhere. But like I have a couple of things in my personal life that I like doing, like immersing myself in film and TV. That's not meaning I sit at Netflix for 2 days.
He wishes
that yeah, I wish. Yeah. That means that like I really enjoy movies and going to see movies just to like decompress, and then also like I'm educating myself a little bit at the same time.
So you still
I'll
working?
do that.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Like the new movie 1917. If you got seen that, holy crap, it's so good. And so it's like stuff like that. Like I love like breaking down that stuff technically and seeing how things do, and then immersing myself in the story as much as possible. But I would say like the most important thing is having that great friend network. And, we'll do cocktail nights, we'll hang out and have some bourbon, or we'll, get some food, or, whatever it is. And just, that's really important to me, so.
Or some old fashions.
That's kind of how I do it.
Hey, Clay? Even some old fashions.
Even some a lot of old fashions, not some, a lot. Yeah.
So what do we got for 2020 then? Obviously, just a quick reflection on 2019, but yeah, what have you got? What projects have you got coming up in 2020?
Well, we're just, I can't talk about it too much just because it's such in this infancy stage, but we're working on this big docu-series now that's going to take us to multiple countries all over the world regarding this massive global criminal industry we call human trafficking. So it's a big problem now. And so we're kind of taking this thing head on and building this series that is looking really like a big project. So, we just wrapped almost 20 days in Southeast Asia. And so we've got some more Asia to do. And then it's going to take us all over the world. And so I'm doing a lot for that particular project. So I got quite a few roles involved in that. So
awesome.
We're working on that, and that's going to be a big project in 2020. I got more Waterboy stuff this year. I'm sure there'll be more tourism jobs, more healthcare stuff. And then probably my biggest thing that I'm working on is this personal project for a company called Onshaw.
Okay.
Onshaw is it's a woman-owned business, and they basically hire artisans in India that have come out of slave labor or sex trafficking, give them jobs, give them the comforts, all that stuff, and they work with them, train them, do workshops with them, and they make textiles, and they make clothing, and they bring all that clothing back and they sell it through collaborators like Anthropology and then retailers and things like that, and sell them, and it all goes back into, it's a nonprofit, it all goes back into the artisans. So it's a really great project that we're working on. And so there's kind of three elements. There's like the fashion element of it, then there's the humanitarian element of it. So, and then there's the entrepreneurial level of it. So it's this massive year-long personal project that I'm working on right now. It's going to be a big release and a gallery and all this stuff. So I'm really stoked about that project more than anything. So.
And when will we be able to see any of that coming out then, Clay? Do you have any release dates on that yet?
It's going to be probably the end of the year.
Okay.
So it's, because we have to go to India.
Huge project. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're going to India for 2 weeks in either August or September. And
that's all mapped out already. Nice.
Yeah, we're building. I've already shot one phase of it, and then I've got 2 more phases of this project to go. And I've got. I'm doing like a book on it. I'm doing a big gallery. I'm doing a podcast on it.
Wow.
I'm doing like all this stuff. So it's a big immersive media experience kind of. So
awesome.
Jesus.
That's awesome. Well, man, I wish you all the best on that, and I hope,
absolutely.
it hits
that's phenomenal.
all the goals that you want it to, man. That's impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, it's Onshaw Project. So it's ANCHAL project.org.
.org.
So
another .org, another .org. Hey,
it's not. It's not.
You could go to .com on this one.
Right,
I don't know what to bring up, but just waterboys.com. Don't
encourage them, Clay. Don't encourage them. Look, we're getting to the end of this podcast here.
Yeah.
I haven't told Wayne this, and I know he's going to hate me, but just give me 2 seconds because I know we've just gone over the hour mark. But I just put out a call to action to the community. I said that we were going to be interviewing Clay Cook. Did the community have any questions? We just got a couple of questions here, Clay. Just real quick.
Cool. No rush.
So we've already spoke on this, but Caro asks, very cool, how long did you get to shoot with Jennifer Lawrence?
I guess they don't know what we're talking about yet, so they can't understand the concept.
Yeah, but like, how long was a shoot? Is what she like? How did you get like 5 minutes or?
It was 2 minutes. Yeah.
Really?
Wow. Okay.
So we kind of set it up, just to kind of give you the Cliff Notes version a little bit. We set it up to where it was just a preset up thing. There was not really, the only intention we had was to get new marketing materials for her foundation, right? And so she was at a fundraiser, so we had to set up in the corner of this fundraising event that she had, and we had to be very like discreet and like have these black drapes over this thing and whatnot.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And then we had to, once we were done photographing her, we had to like throw all those black curtains out, and it had to become this like photo booth thing.
Oh, wow.
You know,
okay.
So yeah, it was kind of this, we had to like do it that way to make it all work and come together. So, but yeah, she walked in, gave her a hug. She's like, we're going to be over here? I'm like, yep. And she was like sitting down, didn't want to sit down. And so we stood her up, and it was like, snap, snap, snap. I had I took 8 photos of her.
Wow.
You know,
really?
so most of that 2 minutes was like just talking to her and trying to build that bridge, which I already had it, but it was like getting her comfortable.
Yeah.
And then I took about 8 photos. I think it was about 8 photos of her total.
Those people, man, that's such a crazy lifestyle. Can you imagine like your day being broken down into 2-minute slots?
Wow.
It's just fucking mental. Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's crazy. Yeah. And then she pretty much like walked off, was like, all right, cool. And then just
So
walked
go.
out.
Wow.
Thanks.
Nice.
Yeah.
And there was no like, okay, we got it. You're done. It was like, cool, you got it. We're out.
Wow.
Oh, I see. So she said you've got it.
She let you know you've got it. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Well,
that's skills, man.
She
That's
said-
skills, Clay. Just put it down to
Yeah.
that, man. That's pure talent and skills, man. You captured it in 8 frames.
You had it.
I had 2 days with her. So there was actually 2 different shoots.
Okay.
That was the one she said, yeah, she was done. But I also shot her with some of the kids that, which in a very studio environment, similar thing
Yeah.
with some of the kids that her foundation supports.
Okay.
So I also did that, and that was another day.
Okay.
So there was like 2 different shoots that I did with Jennifer, and but yeah, that was the one that I think it was overwhelming for her. She gets overwhelmed very easily,
Okay.
and so I think it was. Yeah, she didn't want to be under the lights anymore. She just wanted to have fun with her friends.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Just
totally.
real
Yeah.
quick, couple more then. We got Steve James here. Do you have a favorite lighting setup, Clay, or is it just situational? I think you've got a couple of lighting setups that I see repeated in your portfolio, but is the one that stands out to you?
Yeah,
Steve James asked that one.
it's pretty easy. Yeah, I'm an easy. When I get on an environment and I'm shooting like maybe an individual or something, yeah, I'll just throw up a strobe with some sort of either a deep octa,
Yeah.
or maybe some sort of reflective umbrella like a Photech or something, just the softest light I could find just to like supplement whatever natural light we have going on.
And do you have any of those BTS shots on your website? I know I've seen them around, but I can't remember where I've seen them. Was it on Instagram I've seen them, or?
Probably Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably Instagram, yeah.
Instagram, or I have a Facebook community.
Okay.
That I share like pretty much every shoot and every behind the scenes from everything.
Wow.
So
Okay. Wow.
Right.
in detail. So that's pretty
Fair
cool.
point.
That's you know,
And that's just Clay Cook photography community, or what is it?
Clay
it's
Cook
Clay
photo?
Cook community.
Okay.
It's Clay Cook community.
Okay.
One word.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. There you go, Steve. Check that out. Okay. And
Yeah.
then lastly, Dave Schick. Do you know Dave Schick? Because he's like, do you enjoy mint juleps? And what's your favorite part of the Kentucky Derby? I mean, did you know this guy?
Okay. All right. No, I don't.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. Mint juleps. Yeah, I can have like one a year. One a year, and then I'm like,
Random.
this is just
Random.
not that good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's not that great of a drink. It's just not something that's desirable for me. But I would rather just drink straight bourbon.
Okay.
Um,
He did finish up with a serious question, but I think we covered it. He said, what are these sort of emotions that you're covering and you going through when you're photographing in the Middle East? I think we've already covered that. And then and then Adrian asked about the business of fashion, which again we've already covered. So
Yeah.
perfect. Thanks for those questions, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, man.
yeah.
So
Yeah, the Derby's crazy. The Derby's madness. Just to follow that up a little bit, but I shoot the Derby because it's just like it's craziness. I mean, it's just debauchery at its wildest form.
Oh, okay.
But it's classy. I mean, like people are dressed up to be classy and whatever, but everybody's just annihilated.
It sounds like the
horses,
Henley regatta that we have here. Everybody's all dressed up, looking fancy, but
they're trashed, man. Absolutely trashed.
Oh, yeah.
Hanging out their hoop.
Yeah, yeah. It's exactly that. It's a lot of fun to photograph. It really is. Like I enjoy getting in there, just like myself. And I'm not taking a mirrorless camera anymore. But, I did that once.
Borrow mine, Clay. It's all right. It doesn't break.
Not doing that again. It got wet.
right. Okay.
Borrow one of mine, mate. You'll be all right. Okay, man.
Brilliant.
Well,
Brilliant.
Jake,
Thanks for that.
I think we should look at wrapping this episode up. We got a
That was brilliant. Yeah, that was like mainlined. Just a lot of great questions there. We ripped through that.
Thanks, guys.
well, Jay. You got one little one on the end. I can see where you're actually calling
Well,
calling Clay a bit of a nerd, I believe. Is that
yeah,
right?
you got 98% on your drone pilot's exam. Like,
What
call yourself an artist? Like, come on, man! It's fucking full blown nerd.
Nerd alert.
Like, 98%.
I need the Rodecaster Pro, man. I need those sound effects buttons back. I could do like a little nerd alert, the audio.
I thought,
Yeah.
you think you know somebody, and then 98%.
Is it 98? Are we missing a decimal point anywhere? Or
I was kind of proud of that because like one of my buddies who's like this epic drone pilot, he's like, dude, I got like a 80,
Wow.
You got a 98% on that thing? I was like, it's not that hard. No, I did this like tutorial on it, and like, so like everything was like kind of immersive. So I'm a visual learner, so everything was like super visual. So I just kind of soaked it in and like, but I studied super hard for it though too. Yeah.
Cool, man.
I just knocked it out. I mean, I got it done in like 5 minutes. I was like, just breezed through it.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah.
Another string to the
I
bow.
I can't wait to see that
though.
Pentax up there, man. It's going to be dope.
I haven't studied for anything since like high school. So it was kind of like refreshing to do that. Like, I actually have to like study something here and like work for this. Like this is
new.
Like actually like read stuff, I'm like, this is different and fun. So I kind of got into it a little bit. That's probably why,
Awesome, man. Well, Clay, before we close off on this show, we got one more question we ask every guest, and that is that's where we ask you to personally recommend 2 creatives. Now they can be from either the photographic or the video world, to come on to Podlemania and do an episode with us. Now, so you don't have to just spout the names out right now. If you've got any that immediately spring to mind, that's awesome. But what we ask you to do is get in touch with them, and you put them forward to us rather than us chase them and get arrested for harassment.
For sure. Yeah, I know the people for sure. Yeah, you gotta talk to my buddy Corey from Natus Films. That guy is the most well-traveled person I think I've ever met.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like lived in Sudan for like 2 months. Like he's just a wild man. I mean, the ballsiest, strongest dude I've ever known in my life. He's a great mentor and an inspiring person. I mean, I think you guys would have a good time.
Wow, awesome, man.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah. Well, please, if you could get in touch with him and put him forward, that would be amazing. And then, we ask you. If you can put 2 in, and that'd be great. I mean, if you've got 3, 4, 5, 20, man, we'll take them all.
No, we've already got like 70 odd, Wayne.
We have, true, yeah. We've got 70 guests lined up. So, yeah, right. Okay, Clay, before I do the closing segment, where can our audience find you? Your website, your social media, where can they go to find Clay Cook?
It's pretty much Clay Cook Photo, one word across the board. ClayCookPhoto.com, Instagram, Clay Cook Photo, YouTube, Clay Cook Photo, all across the board. My blog is clay-cook.com. So I don't know if you ever heard of the Zach Brown Band at all, but it's this huge band, and the guitar player is named Clay Cook. And so I have to fight with that guy all the time. Man. And he lives like down the road from me too.
No way.
Yeah.
And what was
like
your blog? Clay?
Clay-cook.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's got claycook.com on lock.
Okay, no worries, man. Because all these links will be available in the show notes anyway on the notes on the podcast, so people can go to those links and click and go and have a look.
And you got a tutorial as well, Clay.
Yeah, I got a tutorial through F-Stoppers. It's a little old now, but we did that in 2016. If you guys want to know like all about pretty much the way I light and do everything on a technical end, or the technical side of what I do, it's all in there for sure.
I've seen parts of it. It's super in depth, really detailed. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes
and very
from like
sensibly
the most
priced, I might add as well.
My man.
Yeah. Very sensibly priced.
And Clay, if you want to, give us the link to that, we'll put that in the show notes as well, so people can go and have a look and, maybe spend some money.
Definitely check that out. It's really good. It goes into a huge amount.
Drop us that link and we'll put that in the show. Well, man, I think Jake, anything else? I think that's a good close to this episode. Awesome. And we know it's only a short look into Clay's current life at the moment, and I'm sure we can get him back for another episode where there'll be more to tell us at a later date with some updates.
And when we go over there and meet him, it'll be good. Steal his shoes, drink his bourbon, and that's it. We can
jump in his jacuzzi.
That would be crazy.
We'll have to come over and we'll
Crazy awesome.
We'll film it. We'll film the whole episode. We'll come over and do a filmed episode.
We won't.
No, I said we'll film the episode, not the after effects.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We'll literally do it inside a distillery. How's that?
That sounds amazing. You're on.
Just breathing in that beautiful bourbon air.
Nah, I'm a bourbon man, so that's my kind of talk. Jake's looking worried.
Yeah, again. I've been out drinking with Clay. I am worried.
True, man. Good point.
Oh, yeah.
Good point.
That brings back memories.
Doug, lucky you. I can't. They're gone. I've just got one CCTV image. That's all I've got. Like 3 a.m. in the morning. Like, I don't remember that being taken at all.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
on that note, okay, folks. Well, thanks for listening to episode 20, our first podcast in year 2020. And I've lost my plot now already, Jake, after thinking about that.
Sorry, man.
And remember, if you want to help us to produce and record even more great interviews and content for your ears with some of the world's greatest creative talents, your support is very appreciated. And to stay up to date and to be the first to know about new episodes on all creative things from the photography and video world, make sure you subscribe to our podcast at www.podlemania.com/subscribe. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. And please give us a like and don't forget to comment, especially on Apple Podcasts, as it helps our rankings. I think that's a good roundup. And at the end of that, I just want to say a big thanks for joining us, Clay. It's been amazing talking to you and having a little snippet of your current work life at the moment.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Happy you asked me to do this. It's really cool talking, catching up with you guys a little bit.
True, man. Yeah, man. That's awesome. No, thanks very much, guys. And thanks, listeners. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, catch you in the next one.
Bye.